Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 29th of March 2021. Right everyone, this just happened a couple of hours ago, but this is the biggest news from the last few days. Visa is now settling payments in USDC, the USDC stablecoin, on the Ethereum blockchain. Now, if you've been on Twitter before you've watched this video, you've obviously seen everyone talking about this, so I won't go too deep into my thoughts around this. For those, you can basically read it in today's Daily Gwei newsletter, where I talk about how Ethereum is, well, I believe it is becoming this kind of like global settlement layer for all types of value. And, Visa kind of like adopting it and using USDC here is just one more kind of like, I guess, check mark there for becoming a settlement layer. So yeah, I mean, the news I first saw came from the block here. So basically they've got like a summary up the top here, and they, got a few quotes from representative of Visa. What they're actually going to be doing is working with Crypto.com as a partner, as part of this kind of pilot program. And it's going to let the crypto firm manage its card business now entirely in digital assets. So Crypto.com, for those of you who don't know, it's a kind of like, I guess, white glove crypto service. You can go there. They've got like a card, like a Visa card that you can get issued to you. They've got like an exchange and things like that, fiat on-ramps and stuff like that. So what this pilot program is actually going to do is going to let Crypto.com settle in USDC on Ethereum instead of just using the kind of like fiat system, right? Just using the digital asset system, which is incredibly bullish here. And incredibly, really, I mean, it's really cool to see, right? At the end of the day, like really cool to see that Visa, such a large global payments company, being at the forefront of this technology. Now, obviously, Visa is not going to be settling, every transaction that Crypto.com does to the Ethereum mainnet, right? I think maybe they'll just start off with settling like once a day or something, with like one transaction or whatever to the Ethereum mainnet, or even a few transactions. Obviously, if they tried to do like thousands of thousands, it wouldn't work. But this begs the question. I mean, a lot of the layer 2 solutions on Ethereum right now for payments are actually quite far along. We talk about layer 2 for kind of smart contracts and generalized kind of like smart contracts, like what optimistic rollups are doing with Optimism and Arbitrum and things like that. But not much talk is given to like the payments-based kind of rollups, right? Or the payments-based layer 2s, which are zkSync, which a lot of you would have used in the recent Gitcoin grants round. There is Hermes Network, which went live last week on mainnet. There is obviously, other older projects like Raiden. There's a few others out there like Omise Go, which is now OMG Network. And yeah, I mean, these kind of like payments networks are just so far along, especially the ZK rollup based ones. And, I mean, zkSync put out an update, I guess over the weekend, which I'll read through about their like roadmap to V2 and things like that, which is really bullish. But, I can see Visa kind of like adopting a layer 2 solution here, especially on the payments side. I think zkSync is targeting like 20,000 plus TPS in their upcoming releases, which is absolutely massive, right? I mean, Visa does 40,000 transactions per second, or a bit more than that, I guess, these days, across its entire network, right? This is not just like with Crypto.com as a partner. This is like every single Visa kind of transaction across the entire planet, right? So if zkSync can kind of, I guess, like spin that 20,000 transactions per second up even higher, which in time I'm sure they will, and other layer 2 solutions as well, we can begin servicing Visa with the settlement guarantees, the decentralization guarantees, and the security guarantees of the Ethereum main chain, which is really, really bullish. I mean, I wrote in the Daily Gwei newsletter today, it's like, just imagine if, in 5 to 10 years, pretty much like most of the traditional finance system is integrated with Ethereum as a settlement layer, and, through layer 2s, it's paying fees to Ethereum. Now, imagine, how much fees are going to be paid in that case. I mean, there's going to be tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of fees. And now, imagine EIP 1559 being implemented, which it will be, obviously, in July this year. But, when that's implemented, and then all these hundreds of billions of dollars of fees being paid each year, that's, say 50% of those fees are burned, that's $50 billion being burned each year, potentially in over the next few years, which might sound a bit far-fetched right now. But if you look at it, Ethereum is already doing like, I guess, what is it, $20 million a day on average of kind of like fees there. So you take that out to 5 days, it's $100 million. Take that out to 50 days, it's $1 billion. then I'm just doing my head math right now. You go all the way to 360 days in a year, right? I'm going to screw up my math here, about 7 times from there. So, we're already doing like $7 billion a year in kind of fees here. Probably more than that. Maybe my math's off there, but something crazy like that, right? So when you take that into account, and you take into account that Ethereum is still very nascent, right? This is just the fees on, the ETH1 chain today. And most of the users are paying these fees, not layer 2, layer 2 technologies paying these fees. And then, say in 5 to 10 years, I mean, we're going to have sharding, which is going to add essentially another 64 blockchains to Ethereum, and all of them could have like vibrant fee markets as well. So, it's not hard to imagine getting up to $100 billion in transaction fees per year paid to the Ethereum main chain, predominantly from layer 2s and like, whales that can afford those fees. But yeah, that's just like, the really bullish kind of situation for Ethereum being a settlement layer there. So yeah, really exciting news here. I mean, it's funny because like the market's been flat the past few weeks, right? For ETH, for BTC, there's a bunch of other random stuff that kind of like is moving. But in terms of like the big kind of things like ETH and BTC, it's been kind of flat. I think news like this is what kind of kickstarts the kind of, people like to call it like the next leg up, or like the next kind of like mini bull market sort of thing within the bull market to get us, back to basically all-time high on ETH and to go further than that. I mean, I tend to agree with that. Because if you think about it, this news only came out a few hours ago. ETH is already up on the news, and so is Bitcoin. Because for some reason, the mainstream media just like blanket bans saying the word Ethereum. They're just all saying Bitcoin, which is just like another bizarre thing that I won't go into a rant about. But it's just the mainstream media coverage of, I mean, crypto, but like Ethereum specifically, is absolutely garbage. And I suggest you avoid like basically all of it because it just is not accurate. It's like they're purposefully trying to omit kind of like saying Ethereum, which I thought was just bizarre. But anyway, outside of that rant, I just think, this news takes time to kind of like reverberate throughout the ecosystem. I think over the next few days, we're going to see this play out more in the markets, but it already started playing out. But we'll see how long that lasts. I'm not entirely sure. There's still a chance we don't break out from here, but, I'm feeling good, feeling bullish, and, I was actually thinking about something today on that note, just before I move on to the next thing I want to talk about. If you think about it, and you think about like all the adoption there still is to come, it's not like we're going to go in reverse, right? It's not like Ethereum is going to be reverse adopted, or like crypto in general is going to be reverse adopted. So when you really think about that, it's kind of like really hard to be bearish. Like if you believe Ethereum is going to like, I guess like lose market share, or Ethereum's going to stop innovating, or ETH2 is going to stop being built, right? Or any of this stuff, or the merge is never going to happen, all that stuff. If you believe that, then sure, be bearish on Ethereum. But no one believes that, right? No one in Ethereum believes that, because if you're in Ethereum, you're here for the kind of ride, and you believe that this is going to happen and we're going to get to where we want to be. And then just think about how many more people there still are to come into the ecosystem. How many more institutions still have to adopt Ethereum, right? Visa's just the first. I mean, I think MasterCard did something as well. And there's a bunch of other companies that are working with consensus on enterprise stuff too. And, that takes years to play out because enterprises are notoriously slow. I mean, I worked in a huge corporation and it was so slow. So if you've never worked in a corporation before, take it from me, it's incredibly slow. So, from that point of view, this pilot program from Visa, may kind of take 2 to 3 years before you get to a point where it's like, any kind of sizable thing where like, the whole Visa kind of like partner network has access to this sort of stuff. But it's happening, right? The wheels are in motion. So if you believe that this is just going to keep happening, this stuff's going to keep coming out, this news is going to keep coming out, there's going to be more adoption here, which I'm sure we all do, then there's zero reason to be bearish, right? Even if we go into, say for some reason we go into another 2-year bear market, for whatever reason, say we do it at the end of this year, right? And then like 2022 and 2023 are a bear market, which I don't think we will, but just as an example, say that happens, how is that bearish? Like, do you like, I just don't get how that would be bearish, right? Because like, yes, we'll lose, some of the speculative mania, whatever, but there's actually apps on Ethereum now that people are using outside of it. Like, we have all of DeFi. In 2017, we just had ICOs. So yeah, I mean, I've spoken about this before. I won't go on a rant here, but just something that was on my mind today about kind of what I see going on in the future and what I see going on in the present with Ethereum right now. The signs are all there. The real adoption is happening. And, I think someone on Twitter, I can't remember who said it, but someone on Twitter said, you know, signs of, you know, I guess speculation are indistinguishable from signs of adoption. Because everyone's saying, oh, this is a top signal, this is a top signal. Why does no one say, oh, wow, we're actually finally being adopted? Why does everything have to be a top signal? Why can't we just be like, wow, all the things that we've been building for years are actually being adopted? Which is the stance I take on it. When I see all this crazy NFT stuff going on, you know, some of it definitely is in a bubble and just doesn't make any sense. But the overall kind of arc here is that, you know, NFTs is a use case that resonates with a lot of people, and it is being adopted by a lot of people. And yes, within that, there'll be pocket bubbles, but as NFTs as a class, right, and not like ICOs, where ICOs basically went completely away or rebranded to like IAOs, and we have like balancer liquidity kind of liquidity sales now, whatever, right? But ICOs as they were in 2017 don't exist today. I don't think NFTs are gonna, you know, not exist from how they are today. They're just gonna, you know, keep improving. We'll be able to value them better. But the actual category itself is here to stay, I think. But yeah, I'll leave it at that for now on the Visa news here. But yeah, extremely big news, extremely bullish news, and I, you know, can't wait to see more companies adopt Ethereum here. So in case you missed it, and in case you forgot, I'm now doing a weekly live stream with David from Bankless here. So every Friday night, US time, every Saturday morning, my time, we are doing basically, I guess, a live stream, which is just like whatever comes to mind. We have no agenda for it, nothing. We just talk about the, you know, the most interesting things from the previous kind of week. You know, I think most of this episode was focused on Uniswap v3 and layer 2s, like the optimism delay and things like that. So if you haven't yet, definitely go subscribe and follow all of the Bankless stuff, and keep an eye out for this live stream each week. So I put this tweet out before because I was kind of looking and thinking about the long term of things. And as I was talking about before, the long term adoption of things. And I was kind of thinking to myself, okay, where was Ethereum 2 years ago? Now, 2 years ago was March 2019. You know, I mean, it's funny when I think about that. Like 2019 feels like a lifetime ago. But anyway, you know, 2 years ago, ETH was $140. The stablecoin market cap was $3.2 billion. It's like $50, $60, $70 billion something now. It's growing really fast. ETH2 development was in its very, very early stages. I mean, I think at that point, you know, the research was still like very heavily ongoing. The development, actually, the client kind of implementations was super early. I can't even remember what teams were around back then. I don't even know if like the leading teams were making any kind of like big efforts back then. I think maybe they were, but like it was just very, very new. 95% plus of DeFi did not exist. You know, if you go to DeFi PoS today, the only DeFi that existed back then on mainnet, I think, was Maker and Uniswap, and like a bunch of others in some limited capacity. But DeFi as we know it today was just basically, you know, non-existent. And the only NFT anyone ever spoke about was CryptoKitties. And that wasn't a positive thing to speak about. People would say, oh, you know, CryptoKitties clogged the Ethereum network. It means Ethereum can't scale, which is hilarious when you think about the irony of that statement, given, you know, the state the Ethereum network is in today in terms of scalability. But anyway, the point of this tweet was that to show that Ethereum has come such a long way in just 2 years. What is it going to look like in 2 years from now, right? Like in 2 years from now, I mean, if everything goes to plan, this is what's going to happen. This is what I predict is going to happen. The merge is going to be done, right? We'll be off proof of work, which means issuance drops like 90%, like ETH issuance. EIP 1559 will be in, of course. DeFi is just going to keep exploding, right? I mean, there's no doubt about that. In 2 years, we're going to have sharding as well on ETH2, so we're going to have even better scalability. The layer 2 ecosystem is going to be matured to a point where, you know, basically, I think the Ethereum can't scale narrative will be well and truly dead. High gas fees for end users will be well and truly gone in 2 years, right? And when you think about it, 2 years isn't a very long time in normal kind of life, right? But in crypto, you know, a lot can happen in 2 years, and it can feel like a lifetime essentially. Which is why I kind of like was talking about before. When you kind of like take the long-term approach here, you kind of like take the long view of like, even the long view, the longest view, like 5 to 10 years. I mean, 10 years ago, Bitcoin was just like a toy. It barely even existed. And now Bitcoin is being put on public companies' balance sheets, right? And Bitcoin started from essentially nothing. Like ETH, you know, to an extent, is riding on the coattails of Bitcoin. So, you know, from that point of view, that's even more impressive. But, you know, the fact that Ethereum is now where it is, you know, launched in 2015, you know, mid-2015, sorry, and has come such a long way in just those kind of like, I guess, 6 years there. Just imagine what it's going to be like in 5 to 10 years. And I went through before what I think it's going to be like, but yeah, we don't even have to wait that long. 2 years from now is going to be just absolutely crazy. And we don't even know if there's going to be a new use case. it was funny. I remember talking to my my boss when I worked at Set, Felix, you know, a while ago now. I think we were in the bear market still. I think it was the end of 2019. I was in the San Francisco visiting them in their offices. And I basically, we were just, I mean, Felix and a bunch of us, we were just discussing, you know, what was going to be the next thing that kicked off like the ETH bull market, right? And then, you know, of course I was saying like DeFi and things like that. And you know, and I think I was right to an extent, but the conversation also centered around like what was going to bring in a lot of mainstream attention. And I thought that was DeFi. But Felix and I think the others were like, well, maybe we don't know. You know, no one predicted ICOs being a big thing in 2017. Maybe the big thing of the next cycle, which is the one we're currently in, is going to be something totally catch everyone off guard. And I think that was NFTs. So I think they were actually right in saying that because, you know, pretty much everyone, 99% of people in this ecosystem had no idea NFTs was going to blow up like this. And I actually think the people who were very heavily involved with NFTs already didn't expect it to blow up like this either. I honestly don't think anyone expected this. Maybe someone, some crazy person that was like, you know, super bullish on NFTs expected it. But most of us didn't. I didn't even expect this. I mean, I put out a tweet a few months ago where I said, you know, I think NFTs are going to be the next big thing that are going to bring a lot of people in. But I didn't expect it to be this fast. I mean, I didn't expect to see like, you know, people with millions of followers, like artists and musicians and all these sorts of stuff doing NFTs. I didn't expect to see people like Mark Cuban come into this ecosystem. You know, I mean, he's a big fan of NFTs, but being so articulate about these sorts of things, just crazy. I mean, you know, and that, you know, the funny thing is NFTs has only really been like popular over the last few months. You know, I'm talking about 2 years here. So very hard to predict what's going to happen in 2 years. We have relative certainty around a bunch of things, as I mentioned before, like a lot of the ETH2 stuff, especially the merger, the charting. 1559, of course, is only like 2-3 months away. Layer 2, right? The optimism delay, this is what's funny as well. The optimism delay from March to July, everyone's going to forget about that in 2 years. No one's even going to care, right? Because in 2 years, we're going to have such a vibrant Layer 2 ecosystem that it's not going to matter that it was delayed by 3 months. So yeah, the very, very exciting times ahead for sure. I think paying attention to these things and taking the long-term view on anything in this space is always the kind of right move here. So Integral, I guess, is a new app. Integral Protocol, sorry, is a new app that's kind of building an exchange, I think, on Ethereum here in DeFi. But basically, the founder put out a tweet today saying that there's basically a gesture that he did and basically redirected the matching that they got in the Gitcoin round to the in-category projects. So whatever category Integral Protocol was in, which I think maybe was like the development category, maybe, the matching that they got as part of the Gitcoin round, they're saying, you know, just redistribute it because the donations that they got were more than enough to pay for, I guess, the deployments of their contracts, which was 10.9 ETH, and they got 56K in donations. So they didn't want to get greedy here and they wanted to redirect this. And of course, I think they're going to have their own token soon as well. So that makes a lot of sense too. But this is really, really awesome to see. I mean, personally, I think that any project that already has a token shouldn't have a Gitcoin grant. And any project that is heavily funded by VCs or like funds shouldn't have a Gitcoin grant because the Gitcoin grant, the spirit of it is to support kind of like open source work that isn't being monetized in any real way and like open source media. You know, for example, the Daily Gwei, I mean, everything's free here. So, you know, your donations on Gitcoin is really the only kind of like, I guess, money I make from what I do here. And that's fine. I mean, if I didn't want the Daily Gwei to be free, it wouldn't be free. But, you know, you get my point. And there are some other, you know, projects on there that do make revenue but still get donations, and that's fine. But I think there has to be a line drawn somewhere, you know, especially, I mean, if you have a token, like especially a token that's valued at like a really high kind of market cap, then it doesn't really make sense for you to raise like 50K from Gitcoin grants. Like that's just like a drop in a bucket for you. So, and you're taking that away, especially during the matching, you're taking that away from others that could use it more than you. So I think this is a really great gesture here from the founder of Integral here, and I hope more projects do this. I remember, you know, Maskbook kind of like removed themselves from the matching as well because they have a token, which I thought was admirable. But I think going forward in the next matching rounds, I do hope to see way less projects in there that have tokens or are heavily VC funded, because I just don't think it fits in with the spirit of what Gitcoin is trying to be. And I don't think Gitcoin should police this either, because they are not meant to be the arbiters here. The arbiters are meant to be the donors, and the people who want to donate to different projects. So yeah, but I do think we can get to a point. I mean, we are pretty much like at a point now where like the community is calling this out and people are reacting to it. It's not really a public shaming, I guess. It's more like a, you know, public putting the spotlight on it sort of thing, because no one's really being shamed for it. Yet. Maybe they will be in the future because they refuse to take away their grant or kind of give up on the matching here. But yeah, definitely really cool to see here from Integral. So a friendly reminder here from Loopring, if you haven't onboarded to their kind of layer 2 exchange yet, at 100 Gwei gas price, it only costs $10 to deposit your ETH onto Loopring's layer 2 here. So if you haven't done so yet, definitely go to exchange.loopring.io and do this. And I think, you know, I've talked about this before. This is obviously like not the ideal onboarding experience, you know, still having to pay fees to deposit your ETH into L2. And obviously it's going to be more to deposit tokens in. And then if you run out of funds, you have to transfer more funds in, which costs another gas fee. I think the future of onboarding to layer 2 really is like fiat on-ramps, centralized exchange on-ramps, and batched onboarding, where everyone can batch together their funds in a trustless smart contract. And that smart contract's only job is to kind of pay the fee to onboard onto, you know, Loopring or a layer 2, for example, and then disperse those funds to the rightful wallets, which can be done. You know, it's not something that, you know, it needs to be kind of invented. It can be done today. It's just not being done yet because we're not there yet, I think. But yeah, friendly reminder there from Loopring. So I put out this tweet today about proof of stakes, and I basically said it's 2021 and people are still conflating Ethereum proof of stake with delegated proof of stake, which is alternatively known as DPoS. So Ethereum's proof of stake is special. It's very special. It's special because of the fact that it is extremely novel. It is a complete marvel of engineering. It is something that's never been done before, and it was built from the ground up with decentralization and security at the forefront. And it was built in such a way that it didn't kind of like compromise on these ideals at all. There was no compromise, there was no shortcuts, and because of this, it took a long time. I mean, it took like 6 years since it was first talked about to get to a mainnet, and we're still not totally there. I mean, we still have, you know, ETH1 and ETH2 being split networks, but we do have a working kind of proof of stake network that has hundreds of thousands of validators. I think like over 100,000 validators, 3.7 million ETH. And you know, is working correctly, slashing when it needs to slash. You know, we don't have too much centralization in stake, maybe just yet, but still, it's working incredibly well. The hardware requirements are very small. I mean, the most expensive requirement is just having that 32 ETH. And, you know, if you're an Ethereum OG, you were stacking lots of ETH during 2018 and 2019, so you probably have that and more at this point, right? So that's even better because we have so many Ethereum OGs staking as well who are very ideologically aligned. But anyway, we don't have to rely on ideology to kind of secure these networks. And Ethereum proof of stake does not rely on ideology. It relies on robust incentives and relies on a very novel consensus mechanism here. Whereas DPoS, or delegated proof of stake, on the other hand, is not this at all. It is the complete opposite of this. I would go as far as to say that DPoS is not decentralized at all in any way. And basically, most of the quote-unquote Ethereum killers or other chains that claim to be more scalable are using some flavor of delegated proof of stake. Now, if you have been around for a while, you know what happened with EOS. EOS was delegated proof of stake, 21 supernodes as they're known as, and they're called supernodes because the only people that can run the nodes in DPoS network are those that can afford to run the extremely expensive hardware, because it's extremely expensive to run, to store all the data, to run the node itself, because it's very demanding on your hardware. And there's basically no way for an individual to become a validator. They have to be voted in, so it was a plutocracy as well. But what ended up happening with EOS is it turned into a cartel, where a bunch of, I think predominantly in Asia, a bunch of the nodes there got together and said, well, we'll do this if you do that, and we'll do that if you do this. So it never was 21 individuals, right? It was more like maybe 2 or 3. And, you know, at this point, it's probably more like 1, like if I had to guess here. So, you know, that completely failed. Now, there are other networks that also do this out there. There's LPoS and NPoS. I think Polkadot's using NPoS. I don't know, like, the details of what they've changed. You know, using just a straight DPoS system is, of course, incredibly centralized. But there are flavors that you can make that make it a little bit more decentralized. But still, I don't like DPoS at all. I think it just completely goes against what we're trying to build here. Because I believe, and I truly believe that everyone should be able to, run a node, and they should be able to validate the network as well. And with Ethereum's proof of stake, you can. And that's, I guess, like a major reason why people are so bullish on Ethereum's proof of stake mechanism as opposed to others. And I really wish people would stop conflating these two, because there's just no comparison at this point, right? You cannot compare something that is basically centralized to something that is incredibly decentralized from day one and has been built in such a way to keep it like that. So yeah, I mean, for those of you who maybe have been confused about these conversations, hopefully I've cleared that up for you. Maybe I'll do like kind of a video on this eventually. I know I say that about a lot of things. I have to find the time to do it. It's just hard with the ecosystem right now. But yeah, in general, I think if you can, stake, and I've said this before, stake on your own, stake on your own hardware. But if you're waiting because you don't have 32 ETH and you're waiting for something like Rocket Pool for decentralized staking, that's definitely an option as well, because, Rocket Pool lets you stake without the 32 ETH kind of minimum, which is a pretty big barrier now. I mean, I can't sugarcoat this. So that's like $60,000 or more at this point to basically, set up one validator. And that's just the way it is, really. I mean, I don't think we're ever going to lower that minimum from 32 ETH to something else. But these solutions like Rocket Pool should help there. So yeah, just a bit of, I guess, like knowledge thrown at you there. And on that note, I put out this tweet saying the two things I'm most excited about are the L2 scaling and the ETH1 to ETH2 merge. Now, I mean, I won't spend too long on this, but basically I believe these two things are the most critical things for Ethereum to do. If we don't scale via layer 2, Ethereum will die. I mean, I think that's the case. Ethereum will die over time. We'll lose market share. People will get sick of it. Even the people who are paying the fees today and are fine with it, they'll eventually get sick of it, and then the ecosystem will move on to somewhere else, and we won't get any new users. So if L2 does not happen, Ethereum in the long run will die. I mean, that's just, I believe that's guaranteed. On the positive note, I do not believe that Ethereum is not going to scale. I strongly believe with everything that we're going to scale very soon, and we already are scaling, and that, the high gas fees are going to be a thing of the past very soon. And then the merger, I mean, I don't hate proof of work, but there is a coming wave that a lot of people are underestimating about, how much attacks proof of work is going to get now, and how much attack is going to come under from not just individuals, but nation states or, environmental organizations. It's going to be very bad. This is one war that I think Bitcoin is going to have a very tough time fighting. And I'm happy for Bitcoin to fight that war. I don't want Ethereum in the middle of it. I want Ethereum on proof of stake. I want to get rid of proof of work for that reason and many others. But we have to do it ASAP. And I think we're going to. I mean, obviously the merge is being prioritized right now. Everyone wants it. I think it happening within the next, few months. I mean, towards the end of this year, early next year is very likely. So I'm definitely very, very excited for that. And those are the two most critical things right now in the Ethereum ecosystem, I believe. So I spoke about before how zkSync put out this 2.0 roadmap update here. I guess the highlights, as I said, were the fact that they can get to 20,000 plus TPS here. The biggest highlight was them saying that they're going to be bringing out, I guess, generalized VM on their zk kind of rollup technology. Now, this is essentially what optimistic rollups do. As I explained before, being able to put like all types of apps on a layer 2. Now, that's been a kind of limitation of, I guess, zk rollups at this point, but zkSync or Matter Labs, the team behind zkSync, are claiming they're going to be able to do this very soon. I think they're going to be able to do this, I think it was May, maybe? I can't remember where I saw the date here. But yeah, I mean, this will be linked in the description. You can go read it yourself. But yeah, I mean, here we go. May 2021 is the timeline. And then mainnet, okay, so that was testnet. Mainnet is August 2021. I mean, it's funny because I think Arbitrum is launching in April, and then, obviously we're going to have, I guess, Optimism in July, hopefully, and then this in August. But in the meantime, we're also going to have a lot of the stuff coming out of Starkware too, and they've always got big stuff, in the works. So the next kind of like 3 or 4 months in the layer 2 ecosystem is going to be wild, absolutely wild. So, I mean, super excited for that, and, super excited for what zkSync's building here. I mean, I used that on layer 2 with Gitcoin as well, very seamless. And very nice experience here. So I put out this tweet. I mean, I'm talking about a lot of my tweets I put out lately. But anyway, I thought this was interesting. I just wanted to make one note here. So this tweet was basically going over ETH's versatility as an asset and why it's like really awesome. And, you know, I mean, I list all the reasons here. I won't read them all out. But basically, on top of all of this, if you think about it, all you need to get started on Ethereum is ETH. You don't need anything else. You can get ETH from an exchange. Someone can send you ETH, whatever. And then with that ETH, you can do whatever you want. You have ETH to pay the gas fees. You can go on Uniswap or whatever DEX you want to go on, trade that ETH for whatever token you want to trade it for, and there's relatively liquid pools for basically everything at this point, right? You can go use it as collateral within money markets and borrow stablecoins against it. You can use it as money in the NFT economy. You can just hold it and, you know, it can appreciate and you can make money like that. You can do all of this with just ETH, which is amazing, right? I mean, you can't do this with just an ERC20 token because you need to pay gas fees, right? And a lot of ERC20 tokens don't have liquid pairs. Like maybe stablecoins do, but you know, still need ETH for gas fees. So it really just is easier to just have ETH, right? Have ETH at all times, have it in your wallet, you know, and just use that ETH for everything that you want to use it for. So, I mean, that was really cool and something that I figured I'd highlight on today's episode. But yeah, and I can't wait to see what other kind of use cases we think of here and what other use cases we come up with here. I think there's plenty that we haven't even kind of like, I guess, delved into yet that are going to be coming out over the next few months or maybe even years. So Tim Byko published the first all core devs, I guess, recap here, update 001. Now, what this is basically a text update similar to his EIP 1559 updates where he gives a TLDR on what's happening in the all core devs world and then basically goes into detail here. So this update covered the Berlin network upgrade, which is going live next month. Next month? Yeah, next month on the Ethereum mainnet. London going live in July. And then Shanghai is still being discussed. There is a discussion whether the Shanghai upgrade will be the merger or if it will be a bunch of other different EIPs. I think at this point we're leaning towards it being the merger. So yeah, that's going to be really exciting. But if you haven't checked out this update yet, it's a really great one to keep tabs on. He's going to keep doing these. And this is kind of like how you can keep tabs on what's happening more specifically in the ETH1 world, you know, for now. And then I'm sure it'll get merged with the ETH2 stuff once the ETH1 to ETH2 merger goes through. All right, so last up here, we have SushiSwap releasing cash lending and margin trading on SushiSwap's Bento Box. Now, basically what Bento Box is essentially a way for different apps to be built in, I guess the Bento Box is like a box in real life. I mean, the different apps are being built within this ecosystem where you can basically pull the capital together, reduce gas fees for users, and have like a mini kind of like sushi ecosystem within itself, yeah. Now, what the, I guess, cash lending and margin trading kind of app does here is, you know, in the name, right? You can lend out your assets, you can do margin trading because of that on the SushiSwap platform. And this is the first app as part of the Bento Box release. There's a bunch of markets here already, like, you know, for different Sushi LP tokens. Obviously, all the most popular ones are going to be here. And this is, I mean, as I said, this is just the first kind of release here. And as more releases come into, I guess, the Bento Box ecosystem, there's going to be more, I guess, opportunities to do like kind of cross Bento DeFi and you know, doing it with cheaper transactions and kind of things like that as well. So yeah, really cool update here from SushiSwap. Definitely go recommend checking it out. It'll be linked in the YouTube description. And yeah, I think that is it for today. A bit of a long one today, but thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give the video a thumbs up, join the Discord channel, subscribe to the newsletter, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks everyone.